Minutes.
Welcome to the thrilling world of Security Squawk, where we explore cybersecurity. Guiding you through online threats, we'll aid you in understanding safety protocols and trends. Meet our gurus, Brian from Exact IT, Reginald from Arc Solvers, and Randy from Tech Rescue. Together, we'll delve into current events and hot cybersecurity topics, helping you comprehend their impact. Stay informed, stay secure. Security Squawk, the business of cybersecurity. Buckle up. Let's dive in.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Security Squawk podcast, your weekly deep dive in the world of cybersecurity. I am your co-host, Brian, here with Andre and Randy. How are you guys?
We're good. We look like we all didn't overeat, and we all look the same still.
Speak for yourself, man.
I overate. I ate too much bun cake.
Brian went from a 6-pack to a 4-pack.
I did not, but I am feeling it. So here we go. This week we're tackling a smorgasbord of digital system hacks and all kinds of bad stuff going on, from Chinese hackers breaching everyone's favorite mobile carrier, T-Mobile, to ransomware hitting Italian football clubs, and even a look into how teens might be the next big cyber threat. Before we dive in, quick reminder, if you find this show valuable, the best way to support us is by sharing it with your colleagues and friends. We're committed to organic growth on this channel, and your shares help us reach more people, security-minded professionals, business leaders. Whether you retweet us, whether you share a LinkedIn post, tell your friends, coworkers, anything you can do to help us grow the show is much appreciated. So let's get into the content for today, guys. Let's get right into it. U.S. Coast Guard has recently issued a new cybersecurity directive warning about serious risks associated with Chinese-made ship-to-shore cranes used in American ports. Uh-oh. Those guys that thought they were saving money buying these cranes on Temu, which handle nearly 80% of container operations in the U.S., have a remote access feature that could potentially be exploited, posing a threat to national security. All your base belong to us. The directive builds on a previous notice from February and comes after President Biden ordered additional measures to protect U.S. ports from cyber threats linked to China. So, guys, how vulnerable are our ports to these cyber attacks through these Chinese-made cranes or chips that are in these cranes?
I mean, this is just straight out of a movie. You have these covert tools for intelligence gatherings, and now they're making cranes not because they want to make cranes for money. They're making cranes so that they can then put it inside these U.S. ports, so later on they can use it against us if there's some type of war or something.
Yeah, exactly. And you know that every decision that we make to purchase something, government, businesses, individuals, I know that's kind of the theme today as well. Every purchase we make, we need to think about, is this something that's going to put me at risk later? And there are apps, you may or may not have mentioned one, that are a little bit loose on the privacy, that have sketchy backgrounds, and you got to be careful about what you buy. This is a big deal though, man, because if there was a attack like in the Taiwan Straits, if it turns into a hot war, which is a high probability, then all these little exploits like these cranes, I guarantee you they're going to be exploited. So in one way or another, remember their goal is going to be probably to create some kind of either chaos or lack of support in the American people for the war effort. That would be most likely what would happen, because they don't want us to turn it into a huger hot war. But yeah, this is a big deal. It's a real big deal is my bottom line.
What I don't get though is, if the government knows this, why aren't they now? I mean, yes, the news report is coming out, but why aren't they now saying this is banned? You can no longer, purchase it, or you have to do these updates. You have to prove to us for national security or whatever they want to put on top of it.
Good point. So, go ahead.
I don't think anybody thought about it. or it was overlooked or whatever. But you're right. It needs to be discussed. I don't know that it's going to be handled by just an update to it, possibly. But you need to keep in mind that every public corporation in China has got to have a member of the Communist Party on the board of directors. So there needs to be some accountability there. We need to make sure that they're not programming these things with backdoors and stuff like that.
So, what are your guys' thoughts, real quickly, on the idea that this could be happening in other places besides cranes? I mean, we've definitely seen it before. This isn't the first time we've heard of something like this, but we've bought a lot of stuff from China over the last 25 years. Like, how prevalent do you think this could be? And what are some of the maybe bigger concerns you have of devices or equipment or systems that could eventually one day be under the control of somebody in China?
Yeah, we already remember. Was it, if I'm pronouncing it right, Huawei, the phones where they got banned? Yeah. And then we know the cameras. I'm drawing a blank on the cameras, but there was also some cameras that
wasn't it?
No, it's a different one. But yeah, then so telecommunications, video surveillance, industrial, medical. I mean, everything basically comes from China, right?
Yeah, and to answer your question from a different angle, 10-ish years ago, Brian, they found backdoors in chips that were installed, that we bought to install in our cruise missiles. And so if that happened, well then, yeah, I would assume that everything's got a backdoor. I mean, if I was China, I'd put a backdoor in everything I sold, even if you never use it. It's good to know that it's there. If they lock you out of everything, well, at least you got a backdoor into the cranes. And you can make the cranes take cargo and dump it in the harbor on accident. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
Hike Vision was the video.
Yeah, I'm sorry to Hisense is a TV manufacturer, and we don't know if they're good or bad.
Yeah, and then vehicles, healthcare equipment. I mean, the list goes. Every industry, basically.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. So, it's interesting because it's pretty widespread, the risk potential there. And I harp on this all the time on the podcast. I think I'm a very loud voice for somebody who says that businesses are not spending enough on cybersecurity. And here we go. We have another article written where this industry is not spending enough on cybersecurity. Only 36% of these private operators use Coast Guard cybersecurity services. They're asking for adoption rates to increase with these shipyards. And I guess the question becomes, guys, like, once we realize how prevalent this is, how easy will it be for U.S. companies to move away from this type of equipment due to national security? Like, is this something that the next administration or future administrations are going to have to deal with at a very serious level? Do you think this is going to become a serious problem for America?
I hope there's some type of audit that they do that say, hey, if you have this equipment or something like that, you have to now do some type of retrofit, replace, close the ports, whatever, not the physical ports, but the ports on the devices and stuff like that. But there's got to be some type of protocol that everybody has to follow, and just say, hey, it's national security. You have to do this. And then maybe if they give one example, they say, look, they're stealing your data. They're taking your trade secrets. That
federal government could be the example of that.
Yeah. Well, they also ought to make it they should make it, in my opinion, a PR issue as well, because no country in the whole world, it's not just about America first, Andre. There you go. No country in the world is going to want their equipment to be hacked. So make it a PR issue, put pressure on them publicly to take it out. That's happened in the past with some large brands where they found backdoors or they found them phoning home or whatever. Pressure was put, either they hit it or they quit. But it appears that they're not doing it anymore.
All right, so I'll ask our cybersecurity expert, not our AI expert. What do we think? Like, what's you have one of these cranes, right? You have one. What can you do?
Well, you probably have more than one.
Correct, but what can you do? You're at the mercy of whatever these Chinese want to do, or is there some security measures you can put in place to maybe cut off or mitigate the access somebody in China might have?
Yes, there is. Ultimately, there is. So you could make sure that they're on a separate network. You could turn off internet access.
You could figure out how to put them behind a firewall.
Yeah, put them behind a firewall.
Make sure it's zero trusted, or you cut off access from certain countries, or whatever you need to do.
Right. I mean, does your crane really need to be on the internet
24/7?
Right.
What about the crane operator that works from home?
Or your AI crane operator who works
exactly your AI crane operator. Now that's going to be a problem because it needs a network.
All right, guys, good one. We'll see what happens here with our infrastructure and our, our idea, I guess, to save a buck and do things on the cheap, so to speak, and in the name of profit. We've invited potentially millions and millions of Trojan horses into our technology that we are completely unaware of. So, there's a reason that this stuff exists. They just didn't put it in there for shits and giggles. And if you think they did, if you think like, oh, they just, they were just tinkering around and they put a backdoor in the chip. No, that's not what's going on here. All right, guys. Experience 12th annual data breach industry forecast has revealed some surprising predictions for cybersecurity threats in 2025. From teenage hackers to AI-savvy employees turning rogue, the report highlights how the landscape of digital threats is evolving in unexpected ways. The forecast also touches on the vulnerabilities of AI-powered centers and the rise of dynamic identification as a defense against sophisticated fraud. Wow, that was a lot. I don't know who's going to read this report. So, how can organizations prepare for the threat of insider attacks from employees trained in AI?
Which
I don't know.
I'm not sure where you're at, Brian, on our agenda. Sorry.
My bad. My bad.
So one of the things that in this article it was talking about was how the average age for a cybercrime criminal is between 19 and 37. But specifically going to the younger crowd, because I used to work retail, and the biggest thefts that happened in retail was not people coming from the outside and stealing. It was the employees, right, frankly. So one of the things that the hackers are doing, from other countries, is they're playing these video games with them, the Roblox and all of these things, talking to them on the headset, and then now saying, hey, we need you to do this from the inside, because a threat from the inside is less, a connection between a guy in Miami, Florida, and a server in Washington is not going to raise as much red flags. So we're actually now seeing that these, and it's kind of like the drug market, right? The drug market, you have the big kingpin, but then he's hiring all these smaller guys to then go do the work. And if the smaller guy gets caught, who gave you the drugs? I don't know this guy, but I don't really know his name and stuff like that. So it's just adding different layers and layers. And then, a US guy is just going to be like, a US kid is going to be like, well, I just got the money, but I don't really know who my handler was or who I was talking with. So this is something that the FBI is recognizing and they're concerned about, because this now, they really don't even know who's the bigger fish to fry.
Right. I mean, and these companies are coming in and offering a lot of money to insiders. to give up their company. I think more money, more risk, right? So an insider, I think, has a bigger chance of getting caught than somebody on the outside if a company is setting up their stuff correctly, where you have identity-based movement through the network and things are being tracked and monitored. But it's a big deal. And the other part of the article talking about teenagers, we need to have a bigger push in our country to encourage more teenagers that have that propensity to get into cybersecurity, AI, things like that, where their talents can be used in a positive way. Because the article specifically talks about these teenagers being reached by the bad guys, quote unquote. I would also say, if anybody's watching and someone's reached out for you to do some kind of work and the money's too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true, because we know, as experts in this field, we know that some of these people that work in this field have no idea that they're doing dirty work. You know what I mean? Or it's highly likely that they have no idea. They just think they're going to work for an IT company, or they're a contractor for somebody, or whatever. So I don't know. It's a big deal.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting culmination of where we're at cybersecurity wise, but also a great example and illustration of how these criminals are staying, I would say, 4 or 5 steps ahead of everybody else, right? They're way ahead of law enforcement. They're way ahead of the FBI. The FBI's tail is spinning right now with what they're doing in order to recruit and infiltrate networks. Businesses have no clue that this is going on. I don't even think businesses understand. This is the key right here. What businesses don't understand, in my opinion, is the number of employees that they have that game every single night when they go home after work is probably in the 80% or higher, especially if you have a male workforce. And then on top of that, there's massive relationships being built on these gaming platforms by these gamers. I had an employee basically, go through a whole midlife crisis. And when he ended up breaking up with his fiance, he ended up going to Europe and hanging out with his gamer friends. These relationships that he was developing over years and years, playing the same game over and over with the same people. I mean, these relationships are easy to be developed on these platforms. That's what I'm trying to say. And it's more prevalent than most people realize. And it will make people's heads spin who are like 35 and older, because they're not used to that type of connection and way to connect with people. So this is an up and coming thing that you're going to see your employees being turned or being, used as, what's the term that they use? A useful idiot to hack your company. It's going to happen. Like this is going to be the phishing email in 10 years.
Yep. And not specifically on your company, Brian, but just in general. And they're using business devices to play these games.
Well, that's a whole other conversation we can go into. We've audited networks before where we found Xboxes in the network. Company had no idea. We found games installed on people's work computers where people were playing these games throughout the day at work. Company had no idea. And then on top of that, you got all these people working from home, right? So it's easy for somebody to trick a gamer who might not think a lot about cybersecurity into giving up some certain information about your network, and bing, bang, boom, they're in your home network, and now they're hitting your work laptop. All these things are going to become reality. We're just starting to scratch the surface with these stories that we're seeing. So, I mean, the prevalent is always going to be phishing for a long time, but these are just other ways. And this is how bigger companies are going to get hacked very, very easily, and their heads are going to spin.
Well, it's the same like process as phishing. It's targeted, you know.
Social engineering at the end of the day. You're tricking somebody into doing something that you want them to do, that they have either no idea or they have no idea the consequence of doing that. So.
The attack at LastPass, I guess it's been about a year since the last big one happened. There were several at LastPass, and the final, most humiliating one was they targeted the lead engineer. They were able to get into his media server at his house. From that, they were able to get the keys, the encryption keys, the decryption keys to all of LastPass's basically online vaults, like, you know, not the individuals, but the giant, whatever they call them, blobs or whatever they call them internally, at Amazon, I believe is where it was. But that's the same kind of thing. Same kind of thing you're talking about here is you find the individual, you find them online, and you go and you befriend them and then use that as a way to get information to get in. Yeah, you're totally right on that.
Yep. So there's a lot in that whole article and report, but yeah, the whole thing around how these hackers are infiltrating your employees through like gaming systems and other online type of communities is a real thing. Teenagers trying to get into the field and trying, like you were saying, Randy, you know, there has to be a way for teenagers to have a path to figuring out this stuff, testing their skills, honing their skills without actually breaking in the networks and breaking laws now, right? When I first started doing this stuff, there were no laws. Like, cause
right.
You know, people didn't know that you could do this kind of stuff, right? So now there's laws. Now you can become a felon very quickly if you break into a computer network without authorization. And that's no good for anybody, right? But, you know, it's no fun setting up your own network and breaking into it either. Mm-hmm. So we got to give people more opportunities. And there are resources out there kids should be looking into that are set up on the internet. Hack the Box is one of them. There's other ones out there, but those are what you should be using to test your skills.
Yeah, and one other thing about this article that really jumped out at me is it's talking about this coming year, there's going to be a rise in hacker on hacker attacks where somebody might be an insider and maybe he just got wired $250,000 to provide insider access. And he's like, oh, yes, I got my money. And then boom, another hacker takes that money away. Or infects his stuff with something malicious. So that's going to be interesting to watch. So yep. It's all about the money, and as the money gets harder to get from the good guys, you're going to see the bad guys fighting it out amongst themselves, trying to get it from each other.
And that's going to be like future of movie industries, right? Because for the most part, bank robberies don't happen anymore. So now we're going to start seeing stuff like this, cyber attack, and schools are shut down. Like everything that we talk about is eventually going to be a movie soon.
Yes, sir. So here we go, talking about this next article. We'll blow through this one pretty quick. Costa Rica has a state-owned energy company. They fell victim to a ransomware attack, marking this country another significant cybersecurity incident for this country. And apparently they've enlisted U.S.-based cybersecurity experts this time to help them come in and get through this. But this cyber attack potentially impacts the ability for the country to provide essential services, not just power, to millions of Costa Ricans. How might this ransomware attack, guys, on this group ICE impact Costa Rica's energy infrastructure and service delivery? And I guess the other question would be, how much of this is a concern for other countries like the United States?
Right. I mean, mostly they're an importer of oil, import, refine, distribute, as opposed to, pumping and exporting it. So I don't know what kind of effect it'll have on the overall market, but I guarantee you the bad guys are learning from this. So they learned something to help them get into this state energy company. Will they target everybody else? You dang bet you, or whatever. They will. They just learned stuff about this software that runs, how it works. My bet is right now they're firing up some targeted phishing campaigns towards key people in other state energy companies right now, so they can leverage what they learned, use it somewhere else.
And my thoughts real quick is Costa Rica needs to step up their game, because we know in 2022, the entire country was shut down from a ransomware attack. And the fact that they have to now bring in US, yes, we're the global leader in everything pretty much, but the fact that US people have to now go and help them says that internally they don't have the right education to have their people help themselves. So they need to get some cybersecurity courses in their universities, because the US is not watching them 24/7. They need to be watching themselves.
Yeah, and the other caveat or issue in this industry, or a lot of industries like this, energy, critical infrastructure like water plants, there's not like a million companies producing this stuff for these organizations, right? It's not like TV companies and car companies. There's probably like one or two major suppliers around the world for some of the systems that these guys put in. There could be one. And if you, as Randy said, if they can figure out an exploit on that one, they can basically hit every, power plant, oil refinery, water plant, you name it. If they can get their hands on it. So not good, and that's why we need to secure critical infrastructure better than we are today. So here's a interesting story on a twist in cybersecurity, cyber criminal events, guys. Russian authorities have arrested Mikhail Matveev, an alleged cyber criminal known for his involvement with the notorious ransomware group like Lockbit, Babook, and Babook. Matveev, who is on the FBI's most wanted list, has been linked to numerous high-profile attacks that have targeted critical infrastructure, healthcare facilities, and law enforcement agencies across the globe. This arrest raises questions about Russia's approach to cybercrime and whether it signals a shift in how the Kremlin deals with its own cyber criminals. Historically, Russian hackers have operated with relative impunity as long as they do not target Russian entities. So has something changed?
I think this is either two ways. Either he stepped on someone's toes, didn't, pay the tax, and now they're making an example out of him. Or this could be a, what's the thing? Not a carrot, but when you give an olive branch, it could be an olive branch to say, hey, US, we're going to play nice. Here, if you want one of our guys, we found him. He was on your FBI top 10 wanted list. And kind of could just be something where they're trying to build that relationship again with the US.
Yeah, it could be a little bit of both of those. It makes me, when I read this article, Brian, I was actually pretty shocked because it's very, very rarely is it prosecuted in Russia. And then the fact, that, we've got a proxy war going on in Ukraine as we speak. But yeah, maybe it's a little bit of an olive branch, also he probably stepped on the wrong toes. So
it's none of that.
Oh, none of that.
It's none of that. Our authorities were right up this guy's, what, and Russia decided to step in and said, oh, we got him. Don't worry about him. We got him. We were about to take this dude down, and we were about to had a lot of stuff. More than likely, we were hot on his tail, and the Russian authorities knew it, and Russian intelligence knew it, and they decided to get him first.
But we couldn't extract him from Russia, though. Even if the U.S. knew exactly where he was in Russia, we couldn't just take him.
Doesn't mean these guys travel all over Europe. Traveling in Europe is like going into Pennsylvania for me. Like somebody going to Ukraine or Belarus from Russia is like me driving over to New York.
I see.
I mean,
Okay.
it's like these guys go all over the place over there, and once they do that, that's when they get them.
When you say get them, you mean like a horrible car accident? Get them?
No, they arrest them and they bring them to justice like they did the other guys. But I mean, I think they were about to get them, and Russia stepped in and said, "We got them, and now you're not going to touch them."
Right. Okay.
Also, potentially an interesting point the article makes is that it could be a money grab. That maybe the guy had some money sitting there, and by arresting him, they can take his money.
That's correct.
So
that too could be. There's always more to the story when it comes to comes to this kind of stuff, if you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what's going on with this football club, guys, is a ransomware attack. It's not the first time we've seen a professional sports organization. I think I remember not too long ago it was another soccer related. I don't know if it was a club or something, but they got hit. Not the first time we've seen, I think NFL teams get hit before. But this Bologna, I don't know how you say that. Bologna is how I say it. Football club in 1909 is confirmed it was hit by a ransomware attack carried out by Ransom Hub Extortion Group. Those guys have kind of been on fire here in the last half of 24. The Italian football team warned that stolen company data may appear online and cautioned that possessing or sharing this data is a serious criminal offense. So don't go on the dark web and download our stuff. So what do you guys think here? Ransom Hub claimed the attack on November 19th, published confidential data because the ransom wasn't paid, or said they will publish threatening sponsorship, contract data, financial data, personal and medical information of players, fun, transfer strategies and commercial plans, confidential data of fans and employees.
Save this article next time you talk to a wealthy individual, a family office, or a USA sports team, man. There's a ton of stuff. Even though they may only have a handful of computers and a small office, you know, this is a football club. I mean, it's not like they have 150 employees running the deal. They probably have, you know, maybe 10 or 15 or something like that. And they're probably over there thinking, oh, we're too small to hack or even to worry about it. I'm hearing you talking about their hiring, the way they do that, the way they trade people. Like, these are insider secrets that other football clubs would love to get their hands on and use against you to hire better talent and things like that. So,
Andre?
All good as we wrap up. Yep.
So the NFL team was the 49ers that got hit with ransom.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I thought it was the Falcons that was coming to my brain when I was talking, but then I just looked it up real quick.
I think CrowdStrike came in and put Falcon on their machines. That's why.
Oh, you're cute. You're cute. Randy's here all week.
That's right.
So guys, we'll just run through these last two because I got to run. American. You got to go now?
Yeah.
All right, we'll just kill it then. All right. Thanks for your input. We missed these last two articles. We'll cover them next week. Thanks for everyone's input, and please share the show. See everyone next week.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.